Thank you for choosing to watch this session, which is a panel presentation entitled EFL Writing, Teacher Education and Professional Development in Under-Researched Contexts at TESOL 2021. My name is Betsy Gilliland, and I'll be introducing the session, and then my colleagues will present their individual papers. First, we'll hear from Estela talking about teacher education and EFL writing teacher knowledge in Romania and China. This will be followed by Tanita Saenkhum talking about what EFL writing teachers know and wish they knew in Thailand. Followed by Sarah Henderson Lee talking about professional development for writing for university faculty in Nepal. Then Lisya Seloni will talk about what pre-service EFL writing teachers learn in Turkey. And finally, I will talk about what pre-service EFL writing teachers learn in Chile. Wanted to provide you with our contact information now, just in case you want to contact any one of us individually, and also to let you know that we are collaboratively editing a volume called EFL Writing Teacher Education and Professional Development, Voices from Underrepresented Contexts. And we are issuing a call for chapter proposals, which include both research chapters and pedagogical and practical chapters. The proposals are due on April 30th, so please check out our call for proposals and send us your ideas. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Estela. I'm an associate professor, director of the English for Academic Purposes program and of the Masters in TESOL program at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. And my talk today is about EFL writing teacher training in Romania and China. And I will begin sharing my screen so you can see the slides I am talking about. The research about second language writing has for a long time been based on ESL contexts. There have been important voices in the field of second language writing noting this ever since the late 90s and early 2000s. And we now have a better representation of EFL writing due to, or thanks to, a lot of researchers focusing on filling that gap and trying to represent EFL writing better in the research. One piece that we are still working on in the field of second language writing is this gap pointed out by Hervela and Belcher around 2007 and others quoted on this slide that you're looking at right now, who have noted that there is a need to understand the teacher education realm in the L2 writing field. And the reason why it is important to understand the way that teachers acquire their knowledge and implement it is, again, in order to have a fuller understanding of second language writing pedagogy, philosophies and practices around the world in order to build better theories and be able to train future teachers of both ESL and EFL writing, or L2 writing more generally speaking, very adequately for whatever context that they are going to end up working in. I started a number of research projects around the year 2010 in several EFL contexts that I had access to, including in Romania, China, Mexico, and Poland. These projects led to several publications. You have the citations, the references for 3 of them on this slide, and you're welcome to pursue them if you want to understand more about teacher beliefs and practices, as well as the connection between teachers' beliefs and practices and policy, national policy. And so I conducted a first series of studies around the year 2010, between 2010 and 2013. And then 5 to 7 years later, I decided to go back to a couple of these contexts in order to learn, if anything, in the situation of EFL writing teachers, their beliefs and practices had changed over time. And in this follow-up study that I'm talking about today, I ended up going back to Romania in China. These two countries are very culturally and geographically distant, yet they have a lot in common in terms of how English language teaching and EFL writing are dealt with, as you will see from the presentation that I'm giving today. In the first set of studies that I had conducted, what I found was that the teachers were, for the most part, self-trained in the area of EFL writing. They were confident about their ability to teach English, generally speaking, and EFL writing as well. Their approach was primarily product-oriented and teacher-centered. They were responsive to national policy, curriculum, and assessment requirements. They were also overwhelmed by heavy workloads and political instability in their contexts, conflicted about the role of their and their students' relationship with writing, both in their first language and in English. And generally, they were uncritical of globalization. In the follow-up study that I went back for, I was able to reach a number of participants, English language teachers in both Romania and China. In Romania, I had 37 participants. All of them happened to be female. They taught English in 17 different cities in Romania. So there was a very good national representation in the sense that there were quite a number of locations represented in the study. And all of these teachers worked in K through 12. In China, the same. The teachers who participated in the study were K through 12 teachers of English. I was able to recruit 52 participants. The demographic is slightly different in this case because 63% of them were male, whereas the Romanian teachers were all female. And in China too, I was lucky to be able to reach teachers who taught in 22 different towns and cities. And as far as level of experience or amount of experience in teaching is concerned, in both contexts, most of the teachers had about 10 years of experience, plus or minus. The results of the survey show that in both contexts, the main source of knowledge about teaching EFL writing was self-teaching. And this is very similar to the first set of studies that I was talking about from 5 to 7 years earlier. You can see that the teachers reported being self-taught, and in the open-ended answers to this particular question, they indicated that they felt like they had to access readings, books, articles on their own. And another way to teach themselves how to be EFL writers or how to write in EFL, as well as how to teach EFL writing, was the study of texts. So the teachers would conduct these textual analyses that would help them learn how to write in English as a foreign language, and then they would incorporate their knowledge into their own teaching. To a lesser extent, The teachers reported that there had been courses in their undergraduate years, and in the cases where the teachers had a master's degree also at the graduate level, there had been courses from which they had been able to learn about EFL writing pedagogy. However, these courses tended to be in the general area of English language and linguistics or English literature. So the knowledge about EFL writing was, again, rather indirect or indirectly gained. In terms of professional development in both contexts, the teachers who participated in this study had the opportunity to participate in professional development, including, workshops, conferences about EFL writing, once to twice a year. In Romania, more teachers appeared to be able to participate at least once a year. But overall, looking at these two answers, once a year and twice a year together, the situation was very similar for both the Romanian and the Chinese participants. When asked what they would change about the teaching of English language writing and English language in general in their own countries, if they had the power to, the teachers in Romania indicated that they wished for their students' motivations and authentic goals to be more connected to the classroom. And they also wrote about how they would like to see the teaching methodology being more modernized. And they obviously wanted training about that. In China, among the Chinese participants included in this study, the sentiments were very similar. There too, the teachers talked about wanting to focus less on grammatical rules and test-oriented styles of teaching and wanting to be able to implement a more modern methodology. As a conclusion, what I can point out based on this snippet of data from my much larger study is that there is still need for teacher training and development in the area of EFL writing. As you could see from the findings I presented, teachers continue to see themselves as primarily self-taught and in need of better teacher training and professional development. With this, I thank you for your attention and encourage you to contact me at the email address on your screen. And I leave you in the hands of the other presenters included in this panel. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanita Saenkhum, and I am at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville in this presentation entitled Post-Secondary English Writing Instruction in Thailand, Instructor Perspectives. I discussed some preliminary results from a study of English writing instruction at the post-secondary level in Thailand by examining college and university instructors' approaches to teaching writing and challenges they faced. I will also discuss some implications for curricular evaluation and teacher professional development. Next, I would like to talk about Thailand context, what is known. So while research into English language teaching and learning in Thailand has provided some insight for researchers, educators, and policymakers, research focusing on writing instruction in particular is scarce, especially in the context of college and university writing. As argued by L2 writing scholars, English writing has long been seen as the least important skill, and writing instruction has also received little attention. For example, college level writing is taught in required general English classes in which reading, speaking, listening, and writing are integrated. Right. And since student learning success largely depends on teachers. L2 writing researchers have investigated issues related to teacher education and also preparation in teaching writing. Some major findings in this area of research have demonstrated that teaching approaches are influenced by teacher knowledge and prior training. And also there are some like external factors such as national entrance examination, large class size, student motivations, and teacher limited training in teaching writing. This also influence their teaching. So to generate a better understanding of how English writing instruction is approached at postgraduate level in Thailand, I report on a qualitative study of English writing instruction at colleges and universities in Thailand. The goal is to examine instructors' approaches to teaching writing and challenges they face. So in this study, right, I aim to address two research questions. The first one, how is post-secondary English writing instruction approach in Thailand? The second question, how do instructors perceive the challenges of teaching English in Thailand? So with these research questions in mind, I conducted studies of Thai university instructors of English. And these instructors were randomly selected from various institutions of higher education located in different four regions in the country, from the central, north, northeast, and then the south, total 8 institutions. And so with these participating institutions, right, so I conducted in-depth interviews with 17 participants. And these participants are from 8 different institutions across the country. And for each participating institution, a number of participants taking part in the interviews varied, ranging from 1 to 3 during the total of the participants at 17. And I conducted semi-structured interview with the participants in summer 2016. And the interview, which was conducted either in Thai or English, depending on the preferences of participants, and each lasts about 45 and 75 minutes, focus on how the participant approached the teaching of writing and their perception of their own teaching writing and challenges that they faced. So after I conducted the interview, so I coded the interview based on the two research questions, focusing on the two themes, approaches to writing instruction and their perceptions of the challenges of teaching writing. So these are two main themes that I'm going to present in my presentation. So before I present the results, I would like to focus on my participant educational background. So the participants interview either received an MA degree in fields such as TESOL or curriculum instruction, or PhD degree in applied linguistics or curriculum and instruction. The participants said that they did not consider themselves as L2 writing specialists. So let's move on to the first part of the result, which is the approaches to writing instruction. So these are the 3 major approaches to English writing instructions based on my interviews with my participants. There are 3 approaches, including product-oriented, process-oriented, and grammar-based plus sentence level writing instruction. So let's take a look at the first approach and see what the participant says. So for the product approach, right, instructor 3 commented that at his institution, quote, "We focus on student final products and accuracy of their writing. Students also value grammar corrections from the instructors." For the process-oriented, 2 instructors share their thoughts, but I'm presenting just one instructor here. So instructor number 2 said that I expect my student to write multiple drafts. I allow them to continue, revise their writing as many times as necessary until they achieved the grade that they feel they needed. Another instructor who also used process writing in her classes said that When she taught writing, she used a variety of strategies to help students with the revision process. Students were expected to write multiple drafts of their paragraphs and essay, and she often used peer review to help students revise their drafts. She also used a combination of oral and written feedback. For the grammar based and sentence level instruction, the same instructor commented on how she approached her fundamental English class. In this class, she said that we can only focus on sentence level writing. There's an assignment to talk about your dream destination for traveling. Then I would try to teach them like, oh, maybe you start with like, my dream destination is, and why some supporting details, and then the conclusion. Next, let's move on to the teacher perceptions of challenges of teaching writing. The results also provide some interesting finding about teacher perception. First, they said that students tend to value spoken English more than writing. As instructor 1 said, some students appear to only care about their spoken fluency in English, which related to their aspiration to pursue jobs in tourism or international business. Similarly, instructor 7 also said that I often struggle to convince students that strong writing abilities will help them distinguish themselves from the many other students who can speak English well. The second challenge that that mentioned by participant is large class size. So this is very interesting that at this particular institution of instructor 9, right, one English class enrolls like about 100 students. And given this circumstance, he said that large class sizes lead to problem teaching and providing feedback. So the next challenge has to do with professional development and training concerns. So these three concerns expressed by 17 instructors across across the institution that I interviewed. So they said that institution did not offer faculty many resources to aid in professional development of institution. And some programs simply assign PhD holding professors to teach writing with the assumption that their experience writing dissertations qualify them to teach. And writing teachers did not participate in any workshops or training before teaching writing for the first time. So building on what I found in my results, right? So these are some of the major findings. So college level writing is taught in required English classes, right? All four skills combined. And approaches to writing instruction vary from institution to institution. And grammar or accuracy is high value, especially by students. And instructors have minimal training in teaching English. So building on the discussion, right? I conclude with some final thoughts utilizing two questions for us teacher trainers, educators, and teaching programs or writing teacher programs to consider. First, should a college writing be taught in a separate class? If so, who is going to teach it? So these two related questions have to do with staffing and teacher training issues. As found in the study, the participant did not receive sufficient training in teaching writing. Then, these questions seem to be difficult to answer productively. If offering a separate writing class seemed impossible, restructuring the class and valuing English writing skills could be reconsidered in an English general class. The second, should teacher training programs include a practicum in teaching L2 or EFL writing in their curriculums? Why this answer is easy to answer? Why this question is easy to answer? Yes. Yet, not all these programs are able to offer such classes mainly because teacher educators do not always have background in teaching L2 or EFL writing. If this is not an option, institutions should provide faculty with some support and resources for teaching writing. It can be in forms of ongoing workshops led by invited L2 writing specialists, or institution can establish a community of writing instructors in which teachers can share their teaching materials and discuss some teaching practices. So this is all about my presentation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Henderson Lee from Minnesota State University. My talk today is titled Teachers as Writers, the Academic English Writing Development of University Faculty in Nepal, and it's based on my English language specialist assignment in the summer of 2019. The field of L2 writing has largely been dominated by ESL contexts. More recently, however, there's been an increase in scholarship focused on EFL writing, and even more recently on EFL writing teacher education. Much of the research has highlighted the context-specific realities and challenges teachers face in teaching writing. While unique to each teaching context, these often are related to fixed curriculums, differing language proficiencies of teachers, lack of context-appropriate materials and resources, and large class sizes. As noted in Henderson Lee and Pandy's 2020 chapter, writing instruction in Nepal does not stand alone, but is rather incorporated with other language skills. This follows the common writing instruction as part of language education approach in many EFL contexts. Similarly, English teacher education in Nepal does not include an L2 writing or L2 writing pedagogy specific course. This speaks to the disconnects between EFL teacher education and the pedagogical realities of teachers in these contexts. In fact, Seloni and Henderson Lee identify 3 such disconnects based on contributions from several underrepresented EFL contexts in their 2020 edited collection. Those include a disconnect between local realities and ESL-based pedagogies, between accessible resources and identified practices, and between teacher training and the learner's language needs. There have been increased calls in EFL writing teacher education research for a move toward more reflexive and ecological approaches. Commenting on Lecky's 2001 discussion of ideological challenges faced by many EFL teachers, Manchon argued in her 2009 edited collection that there hasn't been enough discussion around the applicability of ESL-based writing pedagogies to EFL contexts. Moreover, she emphasized the right of local administration, teacher educators, and teachers to question or resist such pedagogies, as well as the need for this right to be recognized and supported. To understand the local realities of teaching and learning and how they might impact the teaching of writing specifically, we must listen to teachers and provide them with opportunities to critically reflect on themselves as both writing teachers and as writers. Answering Castaneve's 2009 call to help EFL teachers see themselves as writers, this project focuses on the academic writing development of Nepali faculty and is also informed by writing studies scholarship on teachers as writers specifically. Reed 2009, for example, emphasizes the prioritization of the whys and hows of writing in teacher training, and Zak et al. 2016 stressed the creation of a safe and explorative space for writing teachers as writers. What might such prioritization and space look like at the locally informed level, in this case with Nepali University faculty? So the guiding questions of this project are: what challenges do Nepali University faculty face writing academically in English? What impact does the academic English writing practice of Nepali University faculty have on their teaching of English writing in their disciplinary contexts? And what professional development is needed for Nepali University faculty who want to advance their L2 writing professionalization? Before my English language specialist assignment, I offered a week-long workshop for Nepali University faculty to advance their academic writing, specifically through a study of research paper components and related analysis and review activities. The workshop was offered in both Kathmandu and Nepalganj so as to better reach faculty from across the country. A total of 60 faculty participated, and while the majority of them were from language and teacher education backgrounds, there was representation of a variety of academic disciplines. On the first day of each workshop, participants completed a questionnaire focused on their current academic writing practices and pedagogies. And on the last day, they completed a questionnaire focused on takeaways from the workshop itself, as well as areas of potential continued development. There was also an optional Zoom interview for participants to reflect on their development approximately 6 months after the initial workshop. Several participants expressed interest in additional follow-up interviews, so data collection as well as content analysis of the data is still ongoing. Today, I'd like to share some early highlights from the data, including the academic writing challenges faced by faculty, the link between faculty's practice and pedagogy of academic writing, and the related professional development need areas as identified by them. So in terms of the academic writing challenges faced by faculty, they tended to fall into 3 categories. First, resources. Participants emphasized the expense of accessing many international journals, with some noting that paying for a single research article was not an option. They also commented on the general availability of current sources, including updated writing handbooks and style guides, recent books on English writing and writing instruction topics, and more broadly, research databases. In the more remote areas of the country, technology could also limit access to resources on public websites. Regarding academic writing content, language, and format, participants most frequently identified challenges with idea generation, understanding expectations of research writing components such as literature reviews and methodologies, limited academic English vocabulary, and unfamiliarity with updated citation styles. Faculty also identified time as a challenge, both in terms of limited individual writing time, most often due to heavy teaching loads, and lack of designated time for collaboration, specifically peer review. Faculty participants also identified challenges faced by their own students when it came to academic writing, and there was noticeable overlap with their own challenges. Perhaps more common for the students, faculty commented on their observations of their students having limited prior exposure to academic English writing, lower language proficiencies, and a general lack of motivation and confidence for writing. When I pointed out the similarities between faculty and student challenges and asked if this was ever a starting point for discussing writing with students, one participant during a casual lunch conversation reminded me that doing writing is one thing, but discussing writing is something different and something that he wasn't prepared to do. Relying on how they were taught writing themselves, faculty were honest in identifying lecturing as their primary teaching strategy. Depending on their access to resources and level of professional development participation, some faculty also identified text analysis and one-on-one feedback as their preferred strategies to teaching academic writing. Participants were energized by the opportunity to brainstorm writing-related professional development that they would like to see in the future. Naturally, participants from disciplines outside of language and teacher education requested future writing professional development opportunities specific to the types of research writing that their disciplines required. All participants were eager to see trainings focused on specific genres, including op-eds, book reviews, and conference proposals, the 3 most common types of academic writing that participants did. Many also expressed need for a research methods refresher course or workshop so that they felt more confident and comfortable in the research that they were conducting and ultimately writing about. Probably the most frequently identified professional development need was writing workshops that focus on manuscript development via peer and mentor review. Participants were hungry for opportunities to share and improve their own academic writing. Noting the practice-pedagogy connection, faculty shared that it would be especially beneficial if future professional development sessions could pair a writing topic with a related teaching writing topic instead of keeping the two in isolation. For my workshop, for example, participants would have liked to see a continuation of some sort where they could adapt the shared research writing content and materials for their own teaching context and get feedback on the context-specific modifications that they made. This was especially the case with the analysis and peer review checklists that we frequently use during the workshop. To end, I want to share where my thoughts are currently with this larger project and offer a few forward-thinking questions that may be useful for other EFL contexts. In returning to the move toward more reflexive and ecological approaches to EFL writing teacher education and development, I want to know how future professional development focused on writing can be more locally grounded. I'm specifically pondering how might the faculty identified professional development needs be met in more meaningful, localized ways. Here, local voices of teacher educators and teachers need to be prioritized in all stages of future professional development, from planning to facilitating. I'm also thinking about the thread connecting writing teachers as writers to their own student writers. And I hope this is an area where more EFL-specific research emerges. I'm wondering, for example, if Nepali faculty see themselves as writers, will they in turn see themselves as writing teachers regardless of their disciplines? Also, what impact might this professionalization shift have on students as writers? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisya, Seloni, and the title of my presentation today is Writing About L2 Writing, Analysis of EFL Pre-Service Teachers, Reflective Journals in First Year Writing Courses. The research that I'm conducting today is part of an ethnographic research study that I conducted in 2017 on pre-service EFL teachers' academic writing experiences in their first year program, in their first year of their program, first year writing courses. But in this presentation, I will focus on one aspect of this research that addresses the pedagogical value of writing about writing journals when they are used in the first year composition courses. Before I share my research, I'd like to give you some background information on the role of English in Turkey. The geopolitical role of Turkey in international arena makes learning and teaching English language an important goal for many Turkish citizens today. As Doğançay Aktun'a writes, English language is the most studied foreign language and the most popular medium of education after Turkish. And although the significance of English is acknowledged by the state in many state documents and educational arenas, society is far from the consensus on the role that English language plays in the national education system. And as in many underrepresented EFL contexts in Turkey too, we see significantly more research devoted to understanding the needs and experiences of L2 writing in Turkish context than L2 writing teachers. So most research in the EFL, on EFL education was conducted on teacher candidates or in-service teachers, language proficiency, and their professional knowledge base. So we don't see a lot of research focusing on their writing experiences. And similar to many teacher education programs in EFL context, writing is rarely taught in a standalone writing course in Turkey. So with this in mind, I'd like to briefly talk about the general structure of language teacher training programs. Parallel to several educational reforms, teacher education programs in Turkish universities went through major curricular changes by the Council of Higher Education. And in 2006-2007, an English education program was structured and launched. It proposed a curriculum framework that revolved around the following content areas: technical courses, foreign language courses, historical and general courses, and pedagogical courses. And the decision to offer writing courses is usually influenced by the availability of faculty to teach these courses. We see very few language teaching programs in Turkey making teaching of writing as a priority, and candidates could study L2 writing usually in prep school, but after that it's a skill that is assumed to naturally develop through content-based instruction. Next, let me give you a little bit of background, kind of contextual information about the study. The program I'm reporting today is housed under the education program of a prestigious English medium higher education institution. Approximately 90 students are placed in the program based on their universal exam score, and upon arrival, these candidates take university's English proficiency test, and the majority of the candidates have to attend a year-long pre-university EAP programs where they practice their English. And after they finish that program, they can be matriculated. The first year they have first year writing courses that many of them have to take. So the challenges EFL teachers, pre-service teachers encountered is multi-layered. Contrary to the lack of the writing emphasis during their secondary education, writing is intensely practiced in prep year. However, many teachers, pre-service teachers that I follow don't see the need to use L2 writing as an act of communication. And when you look at the curriculum in prep schools, the L2 writing is taught in various way, but you see a lot of formulaic ways of teaching and teaching based on 5-paragraph essay structure. So the kind of writing structure does not go beyond the drilling of 5-paragraph expository essays. And overall, students' attitudes towards academic writing can be negative. They are not familiar with the different types of text, and they have limited opportunities to engage with meaningful writing in their second language. So the context that I was following, I was teaching and also collecting data as a first year composition sequence. Today I'm only focusing on 104, which focused on language and the processes of argumentation. And the main research question this study asks is, how do pre-service teachers conceptualize argumentative writing and learning in writing about writing journals? And the data sources comes from various places as part of the ethnographic study, but for this presentation's purpose, I'm only drawing from writing about writing journals. So this corpus generated consisted of total of 40 journals comprising approximately 400 handwritten pages of reflective writing. This was kept during the entire duration of this course, and some of the content analysis was used to analyze the journal entries. Instead of teaching abstract writing skills in writing courses, Townsend Wardle proposes a writing about writing framework that I've been inspired for a long time. And as they state in their work, instead of teaching situational skills, often incorrectly imagined to be generalizable, first-year composition courses could teach about ways writing works in the world and how the tools of writing is used to mediate various activities. And in this view, rather than assuming teaching selected genres and conventions will automatically transfer to different writing situations, students are encouraged to read and write about writing research, and they're encouraged to report them orally or in writing. So writing about writing approach is all about students writing reflexively about their experiences in a writing course. And similar to this approach, the facilitative role of writing on learning and thinking has been discussed in several important studies in the general field of education. Writing is a tool, as Bangert Downs et al. In 2014 stated. Writing can be a tool of reflective monitoring of comprehension, thus creating opportunities for students to evaluate their own understandings and confusions, feelings about a topic. Journals have also been used in L2 writing courses for many years. Among the benefits of journal writing are increased awareness of the learning processes and a better understanding of one's thinking as students engage in dialogue. And many scholars have used journal writing in understanding L2 students, learners' experiences in academic writing. So this is a theoretical framework that was inspired, that I'm drawing on. So these 3 questions were asked at the beginning of the semester. Then students used these prompts to write in their journals as they were learning various genres and practicing in this course. The first question was, what was your assumption about this writing skill or genre that you're learning? How have you learned about this particular genre this week? How has your previous knowledge helped you to make sense of this skill and genre? Myself and another colleague who were closely looking at these journals have specifically asked these questions. And as a result, we found various interesting things, but at a broader level, the findings reveal that journals provide the students with an informal but a valuable space to reflect on and to raise questions about their learning processes. And more specifically, we found that journal writing functioned as a beneficial metacognitive tool to raise students' awareness regarding how argumentation works. One example comes from Seda, an EFL teacher, pre-service teacher. This particular entry illustrated her increased awareness of the social situatedness of academic writing and its role in the language teaching profession. She says, I learned a lot of things about academic writing and critical writing. They have great importance to me because we're going to be teachers, so we have to know how to analyze a paragraph or a text, what the purpose is, what the hidden sides. Having an ability to answer these questions makes us more equipped as teachers. For example, we're not allowed to reflect on ourselves freely in all writing because some genres like argumentative writing don't have a base for it. I still have difficulties in terms of keeping my views back and just saying what's going on. In the past, she talks about language prep program. I was out of organization. I didn't care much about the outlines, coherence. So here she reports that relying predominantly on one's opinion in argumentative writing isn't a strong rhetorical pattern, and that she is learning to keep her views back. Another example here is from Merve. In one of her entries, she addressed the process of learning to write an argumentative essay and how this process contributed to her own development as a writer. She says this week we learned about finding some elements of an argumentative essay, like finding evidence, reason, evaluation. It's really useful for me because this knowledge, I will be able to separate parts and I will see differences more clearly. When writing argumentative essays, I will now make sure that my writing has important elements like evidence and a strong conclusion. So she discusses in this entry specific skills and practices she learned that week to parse academic text, reflecting a variation of Tolman's model of writing. And we see various really interesting examples in these writings. One student here is talking about coherence and how coherence is such an important part of making her arguments flow in her essay. So what question? How can journal writing facilitate EFL teachers' understanding, EFL pre-service teachers' understanding of L2 writing? The documentation in the journal entries is an indication that pre-service teachers were recognizing writing as a context-specific practice rather than the static formulas that they need to memorize or the rules. So the value of journal writing here can be the reinforcement or deeper awareness of acquired knowledge, and it gives a chance to document and understand their journey into and through academic writing, and it gives us teacher educators a chance to trace their learning moments. So these are reflective tools to help them recognize these moments. And secondly, pre-service teachers in the study assume this novice as expert roles by productively repeating what they learned and reflecting on the new knowledge that they gained, and in this case about argumentative writing. So the journal entries provided us a window into these students' thought processes about argumentation, while also showing that the students kind of displayed differences in the way that they approach these genres. So writing about writing journals were really useful metacognitive tools in this context. So teacher preparation programs should include courses on second language writing pedagogy where candidates reflexively think about various writing issues, and writing journals can help us understand different processes that they go through. So this is the end of my presentation, and this comes from a study that part of this study from a paper that will be published soon in Diane Belcher and Ellen Hirfell's upcoming book on argumentative writing. Here are some selected references for you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have if you send me an email. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.
My name is Betsy Gilliland. I'm a professor in the Department of Second Language Studies at the University of Hawaii, Manoa, and I'll be talking about EFL writing teacher education in Chile. My research was sponsored in part by the Fulbright Commission Chile, and I want to thank them for their support. This work took place when I was a Fulbright scholar in Copiapó, which is in the 3rd region of Chile in the northern Atacama Desert. Chile has 2 significant measures that are important in thinking about writing teacher preparation. The first, Programa Inglés Abre Puertas, or English Opens Doors, was an initiative by the Ministry of Education to increase and set standards for school English language learning. This also provided considerable funding for teacher professional development so that English language teachers could improve their own abilities to teach English. In addition, the Ministry of Education also established requirements of teacher education programs, including that pre-service teachers would have in-school practical experiences where they actually would teach students in real schools. And the ministry expected all graduates of teacher education programs to attain a C1 proficiency on the Common European Framework of Reference, which is an advanced level of proficiency. The Universidad de Atacama was founded in 1857 as a mining education program. And only in the mid-20th century did they add teacher education and become a comprehensive university. It's still primarily focused on the sciences, but the languages program has a very strong English teacher education career and an English translation program as well. As a visitor, I began my work when I met one of the instructors in the program in California and collaborated initially with her on their programs before I went to Chile. While I was in Chile, I had the opportunity to teach writing classes, observe other classes, participate in department activities, consult with individual instructors, and present at conferences with some of my colleagues from UDA. And then since returning home, I have continued to collaborate with colleagues from UDA. The program at UDA is a competency-based curriculum. And so it focuses both on preparing the pre-service teachers' own English proficiency, and in my interest, helping them learn to write in English. And it also sets expectations for teaching English and teaching writing. In terms of learning to write, the pre-service teachers take intensive language courses during their first years and throughout their 5 years in the program, where they spend at least 2 hours a week on language and communication, learning reading and writing especially, as well as oral presentation abilities, with the goal that by the end of their 5th year, they'll be able to write with a classmate a 25-page research report, usually a action research study that they conducted in their practice teaching experiences. Their language proficiency, however, will be assessed using a Cambridge test based on the CEFR scale. And one of the contradictions I found was that even though the students were preparing and writing this 25-page thesis, the Cambridge test only expects 250 words on the in the written portion. In terms of learning to teach writing, there's no specific course, but the students do have several methodology courses that include teaching writing. They also have the opportunity to teach writing during their practicum in schools, but problematically, the school curriculum also does not include much writing. So there's limited opportunities for pre-service teachers to learn how to teach writing in actuality. The education program at UDA introduced an e-portfolio as a means of assessing across the program. And having students collect artifacts aligned with the national teacher formation standards, as well as the university's competencies. One of the pieces of this program is reflective writing, where at 3 points in the program, during the first, third, and fifth years, the pre-service teachers write a reflection about their language learning and teaching practice. And during the first year, the students are also taking an e-portfolio course in which they're supported to learn how to write this reflection, and they provide each other with peer response, as well as an oral presentation in which they explain the writing that they've done. During the pilot year of the e-portfolio, the first and second year students wrote a philosophy of teaching statement. And when we analyzed their statements, we found that they really didn't know what it was like to be a teacher. And so their statements were very hypothetical. If I were a teacher, I would do this, or their future goals. And so my colleagues realized that because they lacked this actual experience, they needed more to think about how to reflect and how to think about the situation. And so in 2018, they introduced a critical thinking curriculum in which students had opportunities to discuss ideas, role play, and see things from different perspectives. Throughout this process, they were encouraged to translanguage, to use Spanish when appropriate in learning and brainstorming and interacting with each other, and even some wrote their statements in Spanish and then translated them into English. And we found that this allowed much richer reflections. Individual teachers have also taken it upon themselves to do more with writing than is in the set curriculum. So my colleague Daisy, who was teaching a second year communicative competence course, which included an objective of having students tell problem solution narratives, which typically was done as very short oral narrative in response to a prompt where they might have practiced in writing. In 2018, we collaboratively had the students write blog posts in which they had a chance to do more experiential learning and use multimodality. And in 2020, she introduced them to infographics as a form of scaffolding. So the blog post involved this space alien named Freddie, and students took Freddie around town and then wrote posts in Freddie's voice. And we found that they got really into it and enjoyed embodying Freddie as a character. They also then wrote responses on the blog post and clearly were excited and had fun, and were also able to use language in communicative ways. In terms of multimodality, they also introduced many photos and established their storylines through the photos as well. Then this year, when Chile, like the rest of the world, went into lockdown and teaching had to be done online, Daisy had her students use Flipgrid and oral presentations of their narratives that they had initially written, scaffolded through an infographic, which she taught them how to make. So as the intervention, she introduced the concept of the infographic and the problem solution pattern, and had students write a narrative following the beginning sentence of "Once upon a time in Bahia Inglesa," which is this beach resort nearby. Then we had them prepare their own narratives using an infographic that they designed, and after writing it, they then narrated it into Flipgrid and provided each other with comments. And we found that they were much better able to use the pattern, and they were very creative in their designs of the infographics. So we have written book chapters about both of these projects, which I'd be happy to share with anybody in the future. And I'd also be happy to talk more about this project with anybody who is interested. Thank you.